Good day everybody and welcome to SCP Illustrated, Entry Log 65. After weeks of waiting, SCP-096 is here, and that is what we will be looking at today. I've already done SCP-096, however, given how much I've learnt and developed over the past year, I wanted to have another crack at this and bring some better production value to such an iconic SCP. So please note that this is a Euclid level SCP, and anyone that knows SCP-096 should know to expect blood, violence, and dismemberment. And without any further ado, let's just get straight into this. The confidential data release of this SCP has been authorised by the following council and administration staff. Description: SCP-096 is a humanoid creature measuring approximately 2.38 meters in height. The subject shows very little muscle mass, with preliminary analysis of body mass suggesting mild malnutrition. Arms are grossly out of proportion with the rest of the subject's body, with an approximate length of 1.5 meters each. Skin is mostly devoid of pigmentation, with no sign of any body hair. SCP-096's jaw can open to 4 times the norm of an average human. Other facial features remain similar to an average human, with the exception of the eyes, which are also devoid of pigmentation. It is not yet known whether SCP-096 is blind or not. It shows no sign of any higher brain functions and is not considered to be sapient. SCP-096 is normally extremely docile, with pressure sensors inside its cell indicating it spends most of the day pacing by the eastern wall. However, when someone views SCP-096's face, whether it be directly, via video recording, or even a photograph, it will enter a stage of considerable emotional distress. SCP-096 will cover its face with its hands and begin screaming, crying, and babbling incoherently. Approximately 1 to 2 minutes after the first viewing, SCP-096 will begin running to the person who viewed its face, who will from this point on be referred to as SCP-096-1. Documented speeds have varied from 35 km an hour to km an hour, and seems to depend on distance from SCP-096-1. At this point, no known material or method can impede SCP-096's progress. The actual position of SCP-096-1 does not seem to affect SCP-096's response. It seems to have an innate sense of SCP-096-1's location. Note: this reaction does not occur when viewing artistic depictions. See document 096-1. Upon arriving at SCP-096-1's location, SCP-096 will proceed to kill and SCP-096-1. 100% of cases have left no traces of SCP-096-1. SCP-096 will then sit down for several minutes before regaining its composure and becoming docile once again. It will then attempt to make its way back to its natural habitat. Due to the possibility of a mass chain reaction, including breach of Foundation secrecy and large civilian loss of life, retrieval of the subject should be considered alpha priority. Dr. has also petitioned for immediate termination of SCP-096. See Interview 096-1. Termination order has been approved and is to be carried out by Dr. on see Incident 096-1-A. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-096 is to be contained in its cell, a 5 meter by 5 meter by 5 meter airtight steel cube at all times. Weekly checks for any cracks or holes are mandatory. There are to be absolutely no video surveillance or optical tools of any kind inside SCP-096's cell. Security personnel will use pre-installed pressure sensors and laser detectors to ensure SCP-096's presence inside the cell. Any and all photos, video and all recordings of SCP-096's likeness are strictly forbidden, without approval from Dr. and 05. Audio log from interview 096-1. Interviewer, Dr. Interviewed, Captain. Former Commander of Retrieval Unit Zulu 9 Alpha. Retrieval Incident 096-1-A. Begin log. Time, Research Area. It always sucks ass to get initial retrieval duty. You have no idea what the damn thing is capable of, besides what jacked up information the field techies can scrape up. And you're lucky if they even tell you the whole story. They told us to bag and tag. Didn't tell us jack shit about not looking at the damn thing.
Could you describe the mission, please?
Yeah, sorry. We had 2 choppers, one with my team, and one on backup with Zulu 9B, and Dr. We spotted the target about 2 clicks north of our patrol path. I'm guessing he wasn't facing our direction, else he would have taken us out there and then.
Your report says SCP-096 didn't react to the cold. It was -°C.
Actually, it was minus... And yes, it was butt naked and didn't so much as shiver. Anyway, we landed, approached the target, and Corporal got ready to bag it. That's when Dr. called. I turned to answer it, and that's what saved me. The target must have turned, and my whole squad saw it.
That's when SCP-096 entered an agitated emotional state.
Yep. Interviewed now pauses for a second before continuing. Sorry, I got the willies for a second.
That's alright.
Yeah, well, I never saw its face. My squad did, and they paid for it up the arse.
Could you describe it a little more, please?
Yeah. It started screaming at us and crying. Not animal roaring though, sounded exactly like a person. Really fucking creepy. We started firing when it picked up Corporal and ripped off his leg. God, he was screaming for our help. Fucking... Anyway, we were blowing chunks out of the target round after round. It didn't do jack shit. I almost lost it when it started... him.
That's when you ordered the use of an AT-4 HEDT launcher.
An anti-tank gun. Started carrying it ever since SCP got loose. I've seen those tear through tanks like tissue paper. Did the same thing to the target.
There was significant damage to SCP-096?
It didn't even fucking flinch. It kept tearing apart my squad, but with half its torso gone. He draws a large half circle across his torso.
But it was taking damage?
If it was, it wasn't showing it. It must have lost all of its organs and all its blood, but it didn't acknowledge any of it. Its bone structure wasn't hurt at all though. It kept tearing my squad apart.
So no actual structural damage. How many rounds would you say were fired at SCP-096?
At the least 1,000. Our door gunner kept his GAU-19 on it for at least 20 seconds. 20 fucking seconds! That's 650 caliber rounds pumped into the thing. Might as well have been spitting at it.
This is when Zulu 9B arrived.
Yeah, my squad was gone. Zulu 9B managed to get the bag over its head and it just sat down. We got it into the chopper and got it here. I don't know how I never saw its face. Maybe God or Buddha, or whoever thought I should live. The jackass.
We have obtained an artist's depiction of SCP-096's face. Would you like to view it?
You know, after hearing that thing's screams and the screams of my men, I don't think I want to put a face to what I heard.
Alright. I believe we are done here. Thank you, Captain.
Chairs are heard moving and footsteps leave the room. Captain is confirmed to have left interview room 22.
Let this be on record that I am formally requesting SCP-096 be terminated as soon as possible.
End log. Document 096-1. Documentation 096-1 of Experiment 096-1. Experiment 096-1 is headed by Dr. Dan. Purpose is to test SCP-096's abilities while obtaining complete physical description of SCP-096. D-9031 is a 32-year-old convicted felon and former tattoo artist. D-9031 is placed inside Bathysphere 303 Alpha, which is then lowered into the Tonga Trench off the coast of New Zealand. Position is approximately kilometers from SCP-096's temporary containment cell at site. The following was recorded via video surveillance inside Bathysphere 303 Alpha, between it and Dr. Dan's control site on the New Zealand mainland. Bathysphere 303 Alpha reaches final depth of 10,800 meters.
It stopped. What now?
Do you feel fine? No sickness, anything?
My ears hurt.
That should be expected. Now, on your left should be a steel container. Open it, and there will be a manifold folder holding several photographs. Open it, and describe the first photograph, please.
D-9031 complies. The camera is located so the photograph cannot be seen.
Nothing. It's an empty cell.
Thank you. Please set this photograph face down in the receptacle to your right, and look at the next photograph.
It's the same cell, but there's a foot in it, I think.
Describe it, please.
It's pale and bony. Sort of creepy, actually.
Place the photograph in the receptacle face down, and look at the next one.
Okay. Oh, shit!
Describe the photograph.
It's I don't know, some creepy-ass person.
Describe the photograph, please.
Hell, man, he's pale, has wide eyes, and something fucked up happening with his mouth. What the hell is this thing?
At this point, approximately 1332 Standard Time, Dr. Dan in Experiment Control is notified that SCP-096 has breached containment. The fastest path to SCP-096-1 has been cleared of civilians and other image-capturing devices, and SCP-096 is now being tracked by satellite via a tracking collar. On your right there should be another steel container. Open it.
It's a pad of paper and a pencil.
Yes. Please draw a sketch of the photograph you saw.
SCP-096-1 mumbles an expletive and spends the next 20 minutes drawing a sketch of the photograph. At the time of completion, SCP-096 is confirmed to be kilometers away from SCP-096-1.
I'm done.
Good. Place the drawing in the receptacle on your left and close the door.
SCP-096-1 complies, and the sketch leaves Bathysphere 303 Alpha in a watertight buoyancy container. The other photographs are then incinerated in the onboard incinerator.
What now?
Please stand by.
40 minutes pass. SCP-096 is now confirmed to be at SCP-096-1's position and is diving. Transponder signal ends at 9,339 meters as pressure goes beyond the device's operational limits. The camera shows the bathysphere shaking slightly. From SCP-096-1's reaction, it is assumed SCP-096 is on the hull and is visible through the viewport.
Oh fuck, shit, what the fuck is that?
Video and audio feed is cut as the whole of Bathysphere 303 Alpha is breached. SCP-096 is recovered by Surface Recovery Team Foxtrot 303 Alpha without incident. Sketch of SCP-096 is also recovered, and a quick test confirms no hostile reaction from SCP-096. Sketch is sent to Experiment Control on New Zealand, while SCP-096 is moved to permanent containment. Incident 096-1A.
So containment has been attained?
Yes, Doctor.
Let me see the security footage.
Begin log. A large steel cube is shown in the middle of a research lab, which is teeming with a dozen or so researchers. In view of the camera is a control booth, displaying readings from various sensors inside the cube. Fast forward 1 minute 32 seconds. The control booth operator leans forward, alerted to the various readings on the sensors. Approximately 5 seconds later, a steel wall on the containment cube receives a sizable dent bending outward. The dent becomes larger before breaking. SCP-096 is seen bending the steel away, frantically trying to escape. Emergency plates dropped on the cube as the containment breach is sounded. The security tape has SCP-096's face blurred out as per containment protocol. 2 security teams enter the room as SCP-096 breaks out of containment. Live rounds and tranquilizer darts are fired to no visible effect. Approximately 90% of researchers and security personnel have directly viewed SCP-096's face, and a code Lima is declared. The room and surrounding areas are sealed and flushed with class nerve agent. Approximately 2 minutes later, SCP-096 breaches research site and travels kilometers an hour through the outside desert, traveling... End log.
Echo Romeo Actual was assigned to immediate containment breach. When we realised just how big a breach we were dealing with, we were completely overwhelmed. Funny how even the best and brightest minds in the world can be so unprepared.
So you are saying it is your own fault?
Absolutely not. This was a new discovery in SCP-096's behaviour. We had no way to know, and we are lucky it did not turn into an XK. Begin log. Helmcam footage from ERA-5. Footage from inside a UH-60 shows SCP-096 on the desert floor, moving at considerable speed.
This is Echo Romeo Actual. We have visual of the target at knots and increasing.
ERA-1 listens to the radio as orders, identified as coming from Dr. Dan, are relayed. SCP-096 can be seen slowly gaining speed. ERA-1 motions off camera. ERA-3 appears holding a modified XM500 anti-material rifle. 2 shots are fired. The first misses and the second hits SCP-096 in the lower leg. SCP-096 stumbles but recovers. Speed change is insignificant.
Repeat, no effect on target.
ERA-1 mentions to ERA-3 again. ERA-3 fires 3 more shots. The first 2 miss and the third hits SCP-096 in the head. SCP-096 falls, skids and rolls several times, reducing its speed minimally. SCP-096 rolls to its feet and continues unabated. Camera pans up to see 8 V-22 Ospreys belonging to MTF TAU-1 flying overhead and past the helicopters on the same outbound vector as SCP-096. Camera cuts out. End log. Begin log. Video interview log 096-1A. Dr. Alexei appears very calm, determined, and answers all questions slowly and deliberately.
Where were you exactly at the time of the breach?
On break, getting a cup of coffee. It was pure luck I wasn't caught in the containment area.
Describe your actions directly after the containment breach.
I sent Echo Romeo Actual after SCP-096 and alerted Dr. Dan to the situation. We then set upon the task of locating SCP-096-1. Once the general direction of SCP-096 was determined, I sent Mobile Task Force TAU-1 ahead to evacuate civilian population centres in SCP-096's path, all according to containment protocol.
End log. Begin log. Video interview log 096-1-B. Dr. Dan sits patiently. On the table in front of him is what looks like to be a set of modified night vision goggles.
For the record, where were you exactly during SCP-096's containment breach?
In the mountain range, trying to find more information on SCP-096's origins. It was a quick research expedition, so I left Dr. Alexei in charge of containment. He is competent enough, if a bit eager, and has proved himself in the past. This is all confirmed by the various related paperwork, so don't go thinking...
Oh, that was all just for the record, Doctor. Now, knowing that SCP-096 is immune to all forms of damage while in an enraged state, why would you order the sniper attacks from the emergency response team?
Why not? If there was a chance to slow down SCP-096 and give MTF-TAU-1 more time, then we had to try. It put ERA in no danger, and the choppers were in danger of being outrun anyway. Honestly, ERA could do little else to help or harm the situation.
I see. Now, could you explain this?
Interviewer motions to the goggles lying on the table.
Yes, this is Project Scramble, an eyepiece we assigned to ERA and MTF-TAU-1, designed by Dr. Alexei and myself specifically for SCP-096. It carries a small microprocessor which constantly analyzes the viewing field for the facial features of SCP-096. Facial recognition software inside instantly identifies them, scrambling the image into an unrecognizable mess before the light reaches the human eye. It's quite ingenious, really.
And expensive.
Very. Which is why it's a shame it didn't work.
End log. Begin log. Audio transcript between MTF-TAU-1 and modified EG-3 Sentry AWACS. Call sign Big Brother.
Osprey's in the air, moving. Awaiting vector.
Electronics online. Cruising altitude reached. Uploading program Scramble to all camera systems. Cameras online. Big Brother is now watching.
What outbound vector is the target currently heading?
Target is currently westbound, traveling on... shit. Yeah, he's on the I-40. I think he just flipped a semi. Outbound vector is... degrees by... Next town this vector is... I'd say a couple 100 kilometers. Shit, MTF. We're suggesting Echo Romeo begin evacuating the I-40. I don't know how many cars the target has wrecked.
Hold 1. That's a negative, Big Brother. ERA is reporting that the target is outrunning their choppers. They can't get ahead of them.
Then get them to stop the motorists on the other lane. I don't know how many people have seen this thing's face.
End log.
The first 3 elements of TAU-1 succeeded in gathering the townsfolk in the first 3 towns of our incident. SCP-096-1 was confirmed to not be in any of these when SCP-096 ran through each in turn without stopping. However, a video log in MTF-TAU shows SCP-096-1 being identified in the town of and the ensuing incident.
Show it. Begin log. Helmcam footage from Element 4 of MTF-TAU-1 in the town of... Most of the townspeople are gathered in the square, all blindfolded. Helicopters sweep the town. Indistinct orders are heard over loudspeakers from both the helicopters and ground personnel.
The target is entering proximity zone. All units activate scramble gear and begin crowd control procedures. All civilians are not to move from their spot or remove their blindfolds. If you move or touch your blindfold, you will be shot. I repeat, all civilians are not to
Orders are drowned out by a large shriek coming from outside the camera's view. Approximately 2 kilometers away, SCP-096 is seen to be coming over the crest of the hills. It tries to slow down on the descent, but trips and tumbles down at high speed, crashing through several houses before regaining its footing almost without delay.
Once again, civilians are not to move. You will be shot. I repeat.
Several shots are heard, none of which are directed at SCP-096. SCP-096 stops for 1 second before running into the crowd of townsfolk, throwing many aside and trampling more. More shots are heard as the crowd begins dispersing, the loudspeakers unintelligible under the vocalizations of SCP-096. SCP-096 locates SCP-096-1, a middle-aged man, and the camera views SCP-096 grabbing him before it is hit by a fleeing townsperson and is dislocated from the helmet. End log. Begin log. Video interview log 096-1-C.
I was looking through 96's house with my squad. Poor bastard was a semi-pro mountaineer. Took a trip to the Apparently, he took a snapshot of the landscape and just happened to catch 96 in the background.
Wilford holds up 4 fingers for emphasis.
4 pixels. 4 fucking pixels. I doubt the guy even knew what he saw. He was probably just looking at the picture one day, noticed an off-color patch of snow and went on with his day.
How did you find it?
Our scramble gear picked it up right away. Lieutenant got the picture and took it down to the chopper before I ever got to see it. By then the damn monster had taken down Big Brother and it had peeled open Major Stryker. All hell was breaking loose.
So the scramble gear was ineffective.
Ineffective? The goddamn scrambles were pieces of shit that killed the whole damn task force. You know only 3 people are alive besides me? All because some retard egghead thought of a state-of-the-art countermeasure to 96's hostile reaction. Those bloody idiots could have just put a bag over the target's head and be done with it. But no, we had to use state-of-the-fucking-art scramble.
End log. Begin log.
What did that fucker call me?
Dr. Dan pushes back from the table and begins standing up.
I'll show that goddamn son of a bitch what an egghead is after I bash open his...
Interviewee begins shouting and cursing. 2 guards enter the room and push Dr. Dan back into his seat.
Do we need to administer a sedative, doctor?
Dr. Dan takes a breath and smooths his coat.
No. I apologize. Scramble was really an ingenious idea. However, it was a failure because we did not fully know how SCP-096 worked. You see, as the chip inside Scramble picked up SCP-096's facial features and began scrambling them, there was a split second of uninterrupted light flow to the retina. Computers are fast, but not as fast as light. So there was a split-second image of SCP-096's direct face sent to the brain. It wasn't even consciously received, but apparently it was enough to trigger the hostile reaction in SCP-096.
And so with this report of the photograph...
That's the most disturbing part of this whole incident. You know, when the former SCP-096-1 went on his mountain trip? 1990... That's years of that photo hanging there before he saw SCP-096. Since the brain doesn't need to be aware that it is viewing SCP-096's face to trigger a reaction, there can be ticking time bombs hidden literally anywhere in the world. How many photographs are out there containing SCP-096 just going unnoticed, waiting for the careful eye? As I said before, I want this thing terminated now. End log.
Just a quick question, Doctor. What exactly were you planning on doing there? Major Jack Wilford was top-notch SPS when we recruited him.
I was also a recon medic, and was deployed in Calcasieu. Marines beat Special Boat Service.
No, they don't.
Enough, both of you. Moving on.
Begin log. Video interview log 096-1-D.
I got the bag over its head.
Yes, you've told me that. Could you tell me exactly what transpired?
It was done with all its... It was sitting there in the highway. Just got done ripping open a minivan.
Interviewee is silent.
And?
Wes landed the chopper. I got out and bagged it. I put the bag over its head. It got calm, and they took it.
And so the victims in the minivan were the last to have viewed SCP-096's face.
Interviewee is silent. Interviewee remained silent for the remainder of the interview and was released. He was later found in his bunk room having committed suicide via hanging with a makeshift rope. A half-crushed pacifier was found in his fist. End log. Begin log. Video log 096-1-D. Confiscated tape from news broadcast CNN. The image shows first responders surrounding the remains of a crashed plane over the shoulder of a field reporter.
The plane, which seems to be military in origin, has no outward markings designating it as a part of the US military. While first responders look for a black box recording, it is thought by police that the plane crashed due to a massive cabin breach in both the cockpit and fuselage.
The reporter motions to a large hole in the side of the plane, which several firefighters are climbing inside.
Paramedics have only found 3 bodies, which is odd for a plane apparently requiring a crew of around 20 men. Police have suggested...
The reporter is cut off as 3 super stallions are shown hovering overhead, 2 of which land and begin unloading troops belonging to MTF Epsilon.
Shots off the camera, shots off the motherfucker...
End log. Begin log.
So are we finished here?
One last question, Doctor, or statement, as it seems. We find it interesting that there was no break room at research site. Or coffee.
Interviewer remains silent.
We think it would be best if you begin talking.
Remainder of video interview log 096-1-A redacted. End log. Security clearance gateway. The remaining audio recording has been redacted by O5 command. Only personnel with level 5 or higher clearance may access this file. Administrator clearance accepted. Video interview log 096-1-A continued.
I'm waiting, Doctor.
I was not in the break room.
Yes, we know that. Where were you?
Interviewer remains silent.
Very well.
Interviewer closes his folder and gets up from the chair.
Good day, Doctor.
Interviewer leaves. 4 minutes later. Door opens and O5-1 enters accompanied by 2 guards. Dr. Alexei stands.
Sit.
Dr. Alexei resumes his seat.
You know who I am, and I think you can gather from that just how serious this is.
Yes.
Where were you, Doctor?
Interviewee remains silent.
Dr. Alexei, may I assure you that it is in your very best interests that you start talking. I am not exaggerating when I tell you that your life could very well depend on what you say or don't say next.
Dr. Alexei fidgets in his chair and sighs before continuing.
Very well. Myself and Dr. Dan have long known the dangers that SCP-096 presented. Dr. Dan made multiple attempts to make the O5 and you and the seniors understand that SCP-096 had to be terminated as soon as possible. He heard nothing back. No termination order, not even a suggestion there would be a discussion about it. We devised a scenario to finally make you and the other O5s understand that SCP-096 has to die. We knew it would have to be something quite big for you to take notice, however, it was all for the greater good. It had to die.
Keep going.
That photograph wasn't that many years old at all. SCP-096 was transported to the mountain range. Dr. Dan had contacted an old friend who was exploring in the area and was going to use him as part of this scenario without the civilian knowing. Dr. Dan and his friend climbed the mountains and met up with myself and a D-class we took with us to take the photograph.
The same friend that caused SCP-096 to breach containment?
Yes.
Continue.
Keeping it short, SCP-096 was being held very far back in the background with a couple of agents, while the D-class took the photo. Dr. Dan and the friend then continued on their way, and I instructed the D-class to look at a very specific point on the photograph, which he did. The agents informed me SCP-096 had entered an enraged state. I didn't see it, but the screams and sounds were enough to confirm that the experiment had been a success. The agents bagged SCP-096 and we transported him and us all back to site. I later met up with Dr. Dan.
Okay, let's skip ahead to the breach, please, and return to the initial question. Where were you?
Dr. Dan met up with the same friend from the mounting experiment in his home. He had him view the photo. The friend looked at the location of SCP-096, which triggered SCP-096 to enter an enraged state and break containment. Prior to this, Dr. Dan had called me to inform me that the breach was about to commence. I left SCP-096's containment area knowing that the area would be flooded with nerve gas the moment it broke containment. I informed Dr. Dan that SCP-096 had broken containment and was headed for SCP-096-1, at which point he left. He coordinated most of MTF-TAU-1 from his car via his phone. Look, I know this looks bad, but this had to be—
05-1 holds up his hand to silence Dr. Alexei. So, what I can gather from this is that you and Dr. Dan caused this breach and the subsequent deaths of more than 300 staff and civilians because you wanted to prove a point.
I suppose yes.
What do you mean, yes?
It wasn't
meant to go that way?
We thought that the scramble gear—
That piece of shit fucked over the entire task force. 96% of the entire task force killed. So you came up with all of it. The staged photograph, the containment breach, the use of a civilian in an unauthorized experiment. All of it. Do you have any idea what you could have done? You could have caused a fucking XK if a single news camera or a cell phone had captured its face and gone public.
We couldn't know.
You didn't know shit! And you caused the deaths of hundreds of personnel and civilians. People you worked with, people you trusted for your safety, and some you may have even called friends once when they were alive. Did you hear the Master Sergeant's testimony? He witnessed that fucking creature ripping an 8-month-old child apart. Think of that. Were children just collateral damage in this plan of yours, you sick fuck?
We had to show you. You didn't listen to us. That thing has to die.
You and Dan are evil. You represent everything that the Foundation cannot be. We secure the anomalies, we contain them, and we protect humanity so they don't have to suffer from them. We don't release them onto the world with our own selfish motives.
I stand by my actions.
This was twisted and evil and cunning. You do not have leave to authorize your own experiments that put innocent civilians' lives at risk.
Well, finally, you can now see why it has to die.
I hear no remorse in your voice, Doctor.
So what now?
Dr. Alexei, I hereby find you guilty of treachery to the Foundation, the intentional release of a Euclid-class SCP resulting in mass loss of life, the intentional release of sensitive information also resulting in mass loss of life, the inclusion of a civilian in an unauthorized experiment also leading to loss of life including the civilian, and severe gross negligence of your duties and responsibilities. You are hereby sentenced to execution.
What?
From this moment forward, you are now under arrest. You will be incarcerated until the earliest possible time your execution can be scheduled for.
No, this was the right thing to do. You can't do this.
Also, as a result of your actions, your work contract and insurance plans are hereby revoked, including any compensation to your family in the result of your death. Your family will be informed you died with honour in the execution of your duty, when in reality you died as a traitor to the people you are bound to protect.
Fuck you!
In a rage, Dr. Alexei jumps from his chair and moves to attack 05-1. The guards immediately open fire on Dr. Alexei, resulting in the doctor's death. I don't see what this has to do with me. There's no reason to play dumb, Doctor. He told us everything. Well, then I guess there's no use feigning anything, is there? Audio recording 05 hearing. Upon reviewing your testimony and available footage, and the confession of the late Dr. Alexei, it is the unanimous agreement of the 05 that you are to be terminated for your part in the gross breach of SCP-096. And I thought you would know the meaning of for the greater good. Do not try my patience, Doctor. Given the incident's scope and potential, the 05 have approved your request for the termination of SCP-096. Given the lack of personnel with understanding of SCP-096, the termination will be entrusted to you, under heavy guard and the personal supervision of me. Your own termination will be scheduled at a later date. End log.
That is horrible, Doctor. How could you knowingly—
It worked. There was only a matter of time until that happened in a major population centre, and its face spread over the world news.
I can kill 096. But I've killed myself in the process.
And there we have it. Now, before we go to the end credits and the next times, can I please take this moment to say the absolute biggest thank you to all of these amazing YouTubers for so generously lending their voices for this entry. Please go check them out, all links are in the description. They all do various horror or SCP related readings, and it would be well worth looking into. And there we go, everyone. That was the remastered SCP-096. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope there were some significant improvements from the last one that you could all hear and see, though that one will always be the classic. Next time I will be doing a whole video dedicated to SCP-096 going up against SCP-682, and I will be including lots of battle drawings and some cool audio from the guards and the scientist perspective, and then after that one we will have the SCP-096 termination. Thank you all so much for watching and for being so patient in waiting for this entry. As always, check the Facebook and the Twitter for updates on video releases, and if you can't wait that long, then why not join the rest of the patrons and get all of the cool extras. You can get early access to every video, the exclusive illustrated videos, access to the Tales and Canons, you get your own sketches, lifetime access to the Discord, video updates, your name in every single video, and a lot more. And thank you to Sam B, Kavamaram, Sugar-Free Shane, Grant Lasher, SCP-105 and Hawkon. A big thanks to Els Budman, Tree Hero, Andre Brachert and Jeremiah. And special thanks as always to Steffi for sponsoring the channel. And I'll see you all soon, guys. Thank you so much, and take care.